Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. This is the second podcast in a podcast series where I'm talking to brand new chiropractors or chiropractors who are feeling a little bit stuck about some of the things that they need to take into consideration, some of the things that they need to really think about when they're deciding how they're going to run their practice, how they're going to set up their practice, how they're going to become successful. These are foundational things. Last time I talked about just in an overview of this podcast series, and I had a conversation about the reality of where you're at as a chiropractor and just being honest with yourself about here's the situation at hand. Today, what we're going to talk about is just understanding your purpose, understanding your why, kind of understanding who you are. This is really, really important. And I have a section, and I'll reference Next Step multiple times throughout this podcast, just because a lot of the content that I go over in this podcast series is in my Next Step program. And if you want additional help, that's a great place to get it. But one of the sections in Next Step is called Know Your Purpose. And I always tell people, I don't even know why I called it that because it seems so kind of fluffy and whatever. But the reason that getting clarity on who you are and who you help and why this is so incredibly important is because you can't help everyone as a chiropractor. I've heard chiropractors say, when you ask them like, who's your ideal patient or who do you help, or you try to get down to the bottom of what value do you offer as a chiropractor and as a business owner? And they'll basically say, hey, anybody with a spine, old, young, tall, short, fat, skinny, decrepit, healthy, anybody with a spine, they're all potential patients. And I'm just going to tell you that that's just not true. It just isn't. There are going to be people that are a really good fit for what you do as a chiropractor, and there are going to be people that are not a good fit. Some of those things are going to be clinically true. Some of those things are going to be practically true, because if somebody's like 12 hours away and they need to come in, 10 or 15 times to go through your care plan, then being 12 hours away is a really big problem. Let's say there's a bunch of people in your area that need your help. They're willing to show up and all of that, but they're broke. They got no money, $0 that they can give you. Can you have a successful practice by filling it full of people that have no money? Now, I understand that sounds cold because it's like, we're not doing it for the money. You got to pay your bills. You're running a business. You got to pay your bills. And if you are not aware of these things, like what I would consider a basic criteria for your patients, everything you do is going to be less effective. The more clear you are on who you are and who you help and the value that you provide, the more clear you are about that, the more effective your marketing will be, your retention will be. Everything that you do is going to be more effective. And I'll give you an analogy, and then we'll kind of go through some of the things that you need to think about. And I can't answer these questions for you. And that's how a lot of these podcasts are going to go. It's like, I'm going to introduce an idea. I'm going to introduce a thought to you. You're going to have to take that thought, put it in your head, consider it, and you're going to have to come up with what is the answer for me, because there isn't an answer. There's not like this is the right answer and you can't have a different answer than what Jerry would say. Like, that's obviously ridiculous. You need to come up with the answer that makes sense for your practice. Now, here's my analogy. I am not a fisherman. My brother is sort of the hunter-gatherer of the family. He makes fun of me for not being more that way. I'm not a fisherman. I have fished a few times in my life very unsuccessfully. And what I would say about fishing that I know, though, is I know that if I wanted to catch a swordfish, I would go about that differently than if I was catching a catfish. If I wanted to go catch a shark, that would be different than if I was wanting to catch bass. And people aren't different. I mean, if you think about from a marketing standpoint, if you want to reach a certain demographic of people, knowing very clearly who that is that you're trying to reach and understanding them very well allows you to craft a message and be in a place that is going to be most efficient. If you are in some pond in the middle of Illinois hoping to catch a shark, you're going to be very disappointed with your results. And it's not because you can't catch something in a pond in Illinois. And it's not because you don't have the right equipment to catch shark. You're just not in the right place. So all of these things matter. And where I'll tell you this hit me personally very, very hard in a practical way is one of the times when I was in practice, it was at a time in my practice where I was just sort of saying yes to everything. Hadn't really thought about this. I hadn't really thought about who I was trying to reach and who I was trying to help and all of that stuff. And I just sort of looked at every opportunity as a good thing. And somebody came up to me who knew that we would do like health fair things and booths and stuff like that. They asked me if I wanted to do Seniorama. Now, Seniorama is exactly what you think it is. It's just a bunch of old people who show up most likely to get free stuff. That's kind of how old people are. Hey, who doesn't like free stuff, right? So it's Seniorama. I signed up because it's like, hey, I get to have a booth in front of a bunch of people. Now, the problem with that is that I don't mind seeing older people in my practice, but it wasn't really my demographic. And it's with Medicare and all this other stuff. It just was, I never marketed to Medicare. I never marketed to senior citizens. I just didn't want to fill my practice with that demographic of people. And after about 5 minutes of being at Seniorama and have the locus of old people who came in when the doors opened up and just come to my table and just literally take everything that they could take that was free. I had one pen left because we were filling out information with people that we were talking to and whatever. I had one pen that I had literally tied to the table to keep people from taking it. And this was 5 to 10 minutes into a several hour endeavor. It became very clear to me, I'm in the wrong place. I'm fishing in the wrong pond here. I mean, I could be doing anything on this Saturday and it would be better and more productive than what I'm doing now. This stinks. Now, that's one Saturday, whatever. But if you try to make, if you don't understand who you are and you're doing social media, you don't understand who you are and you're doing, videos or podcasts or networking or whatever, you don't understand who you are, it's just a hot mess. You're just shooting from the hip, hoping for the best. It's a terrible way to fish. It's a terrible way to market, and it's a terrible way to run a business. And some of the most successful chiropractors clearly understand who they are and clearly communicate value in a way that their people are flocking to them. Because what should happen when you clearly understand who you are is when someone goes to your website, when someone reads your reviews, when someone comes up to your booth at Seniorama, if you choose to be there, when someone does that, there's an internal sigh of relief that goes, oh, thank God I found the right place. And what should also happen is when you clearly know who you are and you're clearly communicating that in a way that people can understand, there also should be a little bit of a pushback. You shouldn't be having people showing up at your practice all the time who just clearly don't understand what you do. I had that happen just a few times in practice, not very much, but I had times where people showed up with issues and I'm like, I'm not your guy. Like, why are you here? Like, I don't even know how you got this far. And you think that I'm the one to help you with this particular problem. Like, clearly there's a miscommunication somewhere along the way. There's probably my fault. I probably was not communicating well what I did. I had some glorious fails in that area. But it's really, really, really important. And it's a great starting point because if you don't understand who you are and then you're going out into the community doing all of this stuff, you're just going to be exhausted. And I'm not saying that going through this process of understanding who you are is like some sort of magic pill where like everything is easy. I will say this, it does become easier and it does become more effective. So here's some things to think about. Number one is, who are your people? Now, in the marketing world, we call it an avatar. The idea is your ideal person. Now, when I started Rocket Chiro, which used to be Black Sheep DC, my avatar was 24-year-old me. Like, I used to be a chiropractor. I struggled a lot when I first got started. I really felt like chiropractic coaches took advantage of me during a time where I needed a lot of help, and they were taking a bunch of money and not really offering all that much help and not being honest with me. Like, it just was sort of a bad time. And I thought to myself, I'm going to create content for young chiropractors who are getting started. Even this podcast is sort of an extension of that now 10 years later, where it's like, hey, I want to create content to help this kind of go back in time and help 24-year-old me, 25-year-old me, the chiropractor who was just getting started, who didn't know what he was doing. And so that was my avatar. Now, if you were to go and look through all of my clients that I have currently and all of my clients that I've had over the years and look at all of them, you're never going to find 24 or 25-year-old me. But what you are going to find is a bunch of people who have different traits of 24 and 25-year-old me. It's sort of like a family reunion where it's like, hey, everybody sort of looks like Broken Jerry when he was 24 and 25. Like they all have those sort of traits. And when I talk to certain people on the phone and they say certain things to me and I'm going, oh yeah, this is my person. This is my person. I know that this is my person because they resemble 24 and 25-year-old me. So that helps with some of the stuff that I've done with Black Sheep and Rocket Chiro and all this other stuff. It helped with that because I was clear with who I was trying to help. Same thing with you as in your practice, you need to have a clear understanding of who you're trying to help. Now, I'm not saying that every single person has to fit that criteria exactly, but what's going to happen is if you've been in practice for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we're going to be able to go to your practice and see a common thread. What are some similarities? It sort of looks like a family reunion. It's like, hey, everybody's got the same nose. Everybody's got the same ears. And I don't mean that literally, but I'm just saying there's going to be common threads that are running throughout the family that is your practice when you are clearly communicating value, when you know who you are. And some chiropractors do this incredibly well. Many chiropractors, I would say most chiropractors, don't do this well at all. So who are your people? Why would people choose you? If somebody's looking for a chiropractor in your area, why would they choose you? If it's because of price and convenience, that's not good reasons. I mean, it could be the reason, but it's not good. It's not a very stable reason because long-term, there could be somebody that ends up being closer or somebody who ends up being cheaper. So I don't think those are great reasons. What are the reasons someone that would choose you beyond price and proximity? Although those are fine. If somebody chooses you for that reason, I guess that's fine for now. What problems do you solve for your people? What language do your people use? I see this a lot when doing websites for chiropractors. They'll have on their homepage, helping you reach your fullest health potential and life force and blah, blah, blah. And they say dumb things that chiropractors say to each other or say to themselves that don't make any sense to the average person. It would make way more sense just to say we help people get out of pain. We help people feel better faster. We help you get back in the game. We help you feel like yourself again. We help you, women and children and all phases of life. We help people during pregnancy, whatever, like whatever your thing is, whatever your niche is, it would just make way more sense to just have a really, really clear purpose statement using the words that human beings actually use, the people that are going to be your patients, the people that are going to pay you. What do they say? Now, might not be the most noble reason to go to the chiropractor. And you may even get annoyed with using certain patient words. And some chiropractors have a problem with, help with pain. They're like, I don't want people to come to me because of pain. That's a tough road. Because a lot of people do. I would say most people go to the chiropractor because of pain. And if you're going to die on that hill, you're making your life harder than it has to be. And so what are the words that people use and how can I communicate what I do and the words that they use? And then the last question is, how do I reach those people? If I know who they are, I know what the words they say, I know the value that I offer, then marketing is just getting in front of those people. And that could be Instagram, it could be online, offline, it could be in person, it could be video, it could be audio. You can lean into your skills. What are your talents? What are your giftings? There's a ton of ways to do it. But if you just start creating content for the sake of content, or you're just like, I'm going to become big on social media without any sort of method to your madness, like who you're trying to attract and who you're trying to what problem are you solving? Or if you're just trying to be everything to everyone, it's a terrible way to run a small business. And here's the thing. As a small business owner, like money is oxygen. And money gives you time. And when you dink around being inefficient because you haven't clearly nailed down who you are and the value that you offer, why would people choose you? And you're not kind of screaming that at the rooftop in a way that people understand. This is the problem that I solve. If you're not doing that, you're running out of money. And when you're running out of money, you're running out of time. And there are a lot of chiropractors who could be very successful chiropractors that simply make mistakes in the beginning that don't allow them to ever have the practice that they want to have. So this is a great starting point. And if you've never thought about this, even if you're 10 years in practice, you've never thought about this, it's really important to stop and think about who are you? What value do I offer? Why do people choose me? What are the words that these people use? And then ask yourself, where are they? How can I get in front of them? It's just a great place to start from a business and marketing standpoint. All right, guys, that is podcast number 2. Like I said, I want to encourage you to listen to the rest of the podcast in this series for new chiropractors and struggling chiropractors. You'll be glad that you did. Once again, if you want more help, you can check out my Next Step program at rocketchiro.com. If you want a better website, check out the Rocket Chiropractic websites. You'll love those. I'm out of here. I'll talk to you on the next episode. See ya.